So what does Michigan do? That is my ultimate question. So Kenny Dillingham a few days ago he's re-signed at Arizona State, or not re-signed, but he's signed an extension at Arizona State. Seems like he is out. We at first I did say in my previous video that Kenny Dillingham is probably out of the question. And then later that week, we heard that there was mutual interest. Kenny Dillingham was kind of sounding like he was interested in the Michigan job in his media day. So then I made another video saying that Kenny Dillingham might be back in. And now the contract extension is valid, it is final. So it seems like Kenny Dillingham is out of the Michigan head coaching search. Then we talk about Kalen DeBoer. A lot of speculation over whether Alabama was going to fire Kalen DeBoer if they lost to Oklahoma. It started off looking that way. Started off looking, I think a lot of Michigan fans watched the first half of that game and they were pretty excited because they think they were about to get Kalen DeBoer. And then Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide come back. They're going to the second round of the playoffs to face Indiana. Seems like DeBoer is pretty much locked his spot in there. And there's also some reports going around and some speculation that DeBoer and Alabama are working on another contract extension as well. Seems like Kalen DeBoer is out as well. So what does Michigan do here? There is a new candidate, which I will talk about. And there are a few other names that I will talk about. But your options are pretty slim. Your options are very slim, in my opinion. Unless they decide to go out and make a big splash that we would not expect. Because if you think about it, Penn State was kind of in the same situation. A lot of people were wondering what direction is Penn State going to go. There's nobody left for them. Seems like they targeted a lot of people. They had a very wide head coaching search, and they ran out of options towards the end, it seemed like. They ended up with Matt Campbell, but I don't think there's a Matt Campbell there for Michigan right now. It's like you're going to have to go pay a pretty hefty buyout for a head coach right now if you're Michigan, I would think. Now, there's one. He was a free agent, which we'll talk about. But this Michigan head coaching search is very interesting. Oh, but the Penn State thing that I was talking about, we didn't expect them. Nobody expected Kalani Sitake to be talked about in this coaching search. Penn State went out and almost got Kalani Sitake. Will Michigan pull something like that, where there's a head coach out there that we are not thinking of at all, that Michigan may be contacting? That's a possibility. You would like to think that's a possibility because Michigan is one of the top jobs in the country. I would argue it's a top five job in the country. I would, I mean, I think you could pretty valid. I think that argument's pretty valid. If Michigan opened up sooner, they would have landed one of these big time head coaches pretty easily. Pretty fair. They probably would have been the second biggest job open behind LSU, in my opinion. But we have a new candidate, and we're going to talk about that right now. That is Kyle Whittingham from Utah. So there were some things going around, some rumblings that Kyle Whittingham was going to retire. And he stepped down as the Utah head coach. A lot of people cut straight to the point. Kyle Whittingham is retired. That is not the case. That is not the case at all. So there were some weird things going on here because he stepped down. He said that he didn't want to overstay his welcome. So there is some speculation as to whether Utah, I mean, they hired their defensive coordinator as their new head coach. Maybe there was some promise there that he was going to get that job anyway. Kyle Whittingham stuck around for a very long time and he was getting frustrated. I don't know. I don't know what happened in Utah. Kyle Whittingham is a good coach. Is it a fit at Michigan? I don't know. So, Kyle Whittingham, he's 66 years old. That's something to monitor. Is is he going to be that great of a first off recruiter, head coach, and everything going like down the road? Because like I say, he's 66. He's getting up there. He's already up there. I think he's a great coach. It's kind of risky. How long? First off, how long is he going to coach? How long is he even going to be able to coach? We don't see many coaches around this age. Like yeah, he acts younger than what he is, but 66 is up there. So that's something kind of to monitor. Coach for 22 years. Talk about experience. He's got all the experience in the world. 177 and 88 record. But if you look at where he's coached two spots in his entire career. In Utah, he was at Utah for a long time. So all of his recruiting really came from that West Coast. West Coast, such as Utah, in state, and around the California area. How will he do going all the way over to Michigan and recruiting that area? Because he has no connections over there. You're going to have to bring in the right staff to help you recruit, which that's a big part of like recruiting in general in college football is the staff that you bring in. Will he bring in some of the staff from Utah? I don't know because they've never recruited the region. So that's interesting. Will he be able to go into Michigan and recruit? I think Michigan's logo and what Michigan stands for is, I think that's good enough to recruit with any head coach, whoever is there, because Michigan is a premier school, like I've talked about. So every kid that gets an offer from Michigan is probably going to be on the table, no matter who the head coach is, just because such a premier logo, such a premier name, such a premier school, and they've produced premier talent. So Kyle Whittingham is interesting. I think the fit's weird. I think the fit is very weird. He's a good head coach though. But he's on the table now. He is definitely on the table now. There is some interest. I've heard there is interest. I heard Kyle Whittingham has interest in Michigan because he did come out and say he wanted to coach again. He still wants to coach. He's not retired. He said in the media press conference that his exact words were, "I'm a free agent now. I'm in the transfer portal. I'm still looking to coach." Michigan is Michigan's looking for a head coach. I don't know who else would hire Kyle Whittingham because there's really no more jobs open as of right now. Michigan's interesting because you're not gonna have to pay a buyout like for these other coaches. He's just there. He's just there. You can hire him and get him in the building this week. It's something to monitor. Now the next one is Eli Drinkwitz. There are going to be some mixed feelings about this. I know. Some people are fully on board with Eli Drinkwitz. Some people are completely out on Eli Drinkwitz. But his name has been tied to this coaching search now. He did just sign an extension at Missouri, so I don't know how much of a possibility this is, but his name is in the mix. How much interest does Michigan have in him? I don't know. But his name is on the hot board for On3 and all these other companies. His name's thrown around a lot. Eli Drinkwitz, I think he's done a much better job at Missouri than what people are giving him credit for. I think he does get too much hate, and I think he's a better head coach than what people think. Now, if you look at how he's recruited and used the transfer portal at Missouri, he's used it kind of at an elite level, I would say. He's getting five-star in-state talent to Missouri. That's kind of saying something. Now, imagine what this guy would do at Michigan. Because I think it's no secret that Missouri is not near as premier of a program as Michigan in terms of recruiting and really everything else. So it's very interesting there. I think Eli Drink was it's a weird fit again to me. That's another thing is I just don't really see any great fits out there for Michigan. But I think Eli Drinkwitz could come in. Like I said, he can recruit. If you bring in the right staff with you, I think you got something going. I really do think that there's something there. He's still a younger head coach, which shows to work out pretty good in college football or football in general, even the NFL. These younger head coaches are really seeming to take over. So that's something that's very interesting to me is Eli Drinkwitz to Michigan. Now the next one is Jeff Brom. He's another one. I know he said that he wanted to stay at Louisville. This is another name that's being thrown around now. And I think it's being thrown around because Michigan is kind of running out of options. Where do you go now? Where do you go? So Jeff Brom, he's a good head coach. Again, I think all these candidates are good head coaches. I think it's a weird fit at Michigan. You know, he's from Kentucky. He's really coached around that area his whole life. Again, how is he going to go and recruit in that Michigan area? I don't know. I don't know. Is he a good head coach? Yes. He preaches physicality. I think that would do very good in the Big Ten. As in defense, he works pretty well with quarterbacks. We've seen him take Tyler Shuck from really a nobody to a pretty high up NFL draft pick. He uses the transfer portal very well. I think that he could be a positive asset for Bryce Young or Bryce Underwood. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Bryce Young. Bryce Underwood. maybe he could keep Bryce Underwood in there. Because that's another thing. If you're Michigan, are you thinking at all, we need to bring in a head coach that can keep Bryce Underwood because we're paying him a lot of money and he's a 5-star and we got our guy? Because Jaden Davis just entered the transfer portal too. So if you lose Bryce Underwood and Jaden Davis, you're kind of losing both of your quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's going to be the number one priority for sure, is to come in and keep Bryce Underwood. But anyways, Jeff Brom, he's a good coach. And like I said, works very well with quarterbacks. That could be big with Bryce Underwood. That could be big in keeping Bryce Underwood. I just think the fit's super weird. I just don't know. I just don't know. Go watch Jeff Brom's UFL interview when he played quarterback. That was intense. Jeff Brom, he's gonna come in there. He's a player's coach. He's gonna come in there and develop dudes. Physicality. He preaches physicality. I don't know. I don't know what direction Michigan goes. And I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. You can throw out candidates, but as far as knowing what's going to happen, we have no idea. I don't think Michigan even knows. Michigan fans even know. I think Biff Poggi is a possibility. Intern head coach. I think it's a possibility that you ride it out with him for 1 year. Then you would have to risk losing Bryce Underwood and some other guys because it would probably be a bridge option unless he comes out and does a very good job next year. But I think that would probably be on the table is keep him around, keep the intern head coach around, and use it as like a bridge year and really see which head coaches are available next year. Because maybe if you wait a year, you can go out and land one of these big time head coaches. Maybe that's a possibility. So that's something interesting as well. I don't know why my screen keeps freezing. I'm sorry for that. I see it in my camera. But anyways, if you're a Michigan fan and you somehow did enjoy this video, I would greatly appreciate if you did subscribe. We're gonna keep updating nonstop on this coaching search as we get updates. I wouldn't be shocked if we know something by like next week. I do know that Michigan wants a head coach in place by January 2nd or January 3rd, I believe, before the transfer portal opens. So it seems like they're going to be pretty active there in the transfer portal. We'll see if Bryce Underwood stays around or goes, really depending on who they bring in. But yeah, if you did enjoy this, I greatly appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I've been getting a lot of support from the Michigan fans. I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, that would be it for this one. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.